Thanks for joining me. And today we're going to look at the Skytech Gaming Legacy 4 pre-built PC. And this one comes with RTX 5090 and the 9800 X3D CPU. Also comes with 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM and a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD. Don't go away. I'll be right back. All right, so let's take a look at the accessories. In case I forgot to mention it in the intro, I did get an MSI gaming controller that came with the purchase of the PC. Supposedly, I think it was valued at like $70 or $80 or something like that. So we're gonna unbox this and take a look at it along with the rest of the accessories. Here is a folder that contains some stuff. The folder's a little oversized for what it contains. They could have probably done just as well with just like a large envelope or something. Thank you for choosing Skytech Gaming. Contained within this folder are documents to help get you started with your gaming experience. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And there's even a Skytech business card. Ooh! We got a quality control certificate dated as of the 20th of this month. So that was 4 days ago. Okay, so I'm not sure if the camera's gonna catch what's on here. If not, I'll get a screenshot of it and show it to you guys. So build inspection, installation, and performance testing. We'll take a look at this on the back end and we'll compare what they have on this quality control certificate versus what we find. All right, another thank you for choosing Skytech thing. Quick start guide with some QR codes on it. Maintenance guide, that's kind of nice. I kind of like that. I think this is the first pre-built that I've done where they had something like a maintenance guide, and even a troubleshooting guide. That's kind of nice too. I don't know what's in these boxes because it wasn't part of the listing that I remember. Maybe all their PCs come with this stuff. I don't know. Okay, so this is MSI's adapter for the 12+6 high power cable. So that's what came with the GPU. This bag has a decent number of, it looks like, the cables for the power supply. So it's probably fully modular, which is nice. Here's the power cord for the power supply, Wi-Fi antennas, and individually sleeved cables for the power supply. That's nice. Here's a PCIe cable. There's a SATA cable, another SATA cable, another SATA cable. This is the accessory box for the PC case, the Antec Performance 1FT. And so it's got the owner's manual, looks like some fan splitters and some Velcro straps, some screws and an extra screw box. So that's kind of nice that they included that. I don't recall any other pre-builts doing that either. So Skytech is starting to impress me. Let's hope that continues. Last time I was impressed, turned out I wasn't very impressed. This looks like a keyboard, and this thing is pretty hefty. This might be a mechanical keyboard. It is. This is a pretty good keyboard. It's not wireless, but who cares? Yeah. This is pretty impressive. And here is a mouse. It's a pretty light mouse. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 button mouse. It's not a bad mouse. It's not a fantastic mouse, but it's not a bad mouse. I still don't know what these are. I don't know where they came from. It's got to be from the case because they both say Antec on them. I don't know where on the case these go. These look like slips or covers of some kind. So hopefully when we do the teardown, we'll figure that out. All right, here's the game controller. It's an MSI game controller, like I said, called the GC30V2. And it's a wireless controller. Let's see, cross-platform support, extremely accurate triggers, dual vibration motors, additional D-pad covers. Wow, this is a thick-ass owner's manual. Must be in like probably like 20 different languages, maybe. Maybe that's why. Kind of looks similar to like an Xbox controller. Feels good. It's pretty solid feeling. And I guess this goes on here, or this comes off. And yeah. Okay, so these are like magnetic or something. Okay, I like that. That's kind of cool. Yeah, they feel magnetic. And then that extra cable for charging and such. I'm gonna call this worth at least 40 or 50 bucks, if not the full 70 to 80. I don't know how much game controllers go for nowadays, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think it's worth. Buttons are a little bit squishy feeling, and the joysticks feel a little less solid than I would think, but that could be a good thing for smooth controlling. Next, we're gonna boot into BIOS and take a look around in there, and take a look around in Windows, confirm everything, and then I'll go off screen and do some benchmarks, and then I'll be back for the teardown. All right, so I'll be right back for the BIOS of Windows. Okay, looks like everything's coming on. Looks like we've got some infinity mirrors in there. All right, here we are in the BIOS. So it's an ASRock motherboard, an X870 Pro A version 4.1. It's a pretty plain BIOS. Oh, there we go. It was preloaded into advanced mode, I think. This is the easy mode, I believe. Oh, and look at that. We've got 64 gigs at 6,000 megahertz, or mega transfers a second, so that's good. CPU is a little on the warm side at 41C. I'm a little bit worried about that. Not a lot, but I prefer anywhere in the 30s is fine at idle. 41, and it's going up. 41 is a little on the high side. And it looks like we've got a Western Digital Blue SN5100 2TB drive. PBO's on auto right there. And we're at 42C on the CPU. If we go much further up, I'm going to be a little bit concerned with that. That's for controlling the RGB. Where is our fan control? I'm a little worried about ASRock. It being a 9800X3D, they've been having problems. So I'm a little worried about that. I'm not seeing anything majorly out of whack on the voltages. Infinity Fabric is supposed to be, I believe, around 2000 megahertz for the 9800X3D, so we're good there. Okay, where is the fan control? It was on silent mode, so we're not going to mess with anything in here because I do want to see what the out-of-box experience is like. We're at 44C on idle. That is pretty high. So we might have a problem with the AIO or the thermal paste. That's a little on the high side. Okay, we're having an interesting set of preloaded software. We've got Signal RGB, which is fine. It's a pretty decent software. And then there's iUnity, and then Microsoft Edge, NVIDIA app. And then we've got a contact support for Skytech, and then product registration for Skytech, and then remote support for Skytech. And this looks like test results. Okay, so they ran OCCT. It looks like no errors after about 40 minutes or so, which is interesting that they did that, so that's kind of cool. All right, so there's our 9800X3D, 64 gigs of memory at 6,000 mega transfers. There's our 2TB SSD, RTX 5090. Okay, doesn't look like we've got any conflicts, so that's good. And lastly, looks like we've got the NVIDIA driver version 591.86, so we'll take a look at that and see if that's as current as we can get for the time frame that they did the tests on, which was March 20th. I'm not a big fan of the NVIDIA app. I'd rather just do the drivers only install, but you know, to each their own. Let me know in the comments if you guys like the NVIDIA app, or you just prefer the old style control panel and just the driver installs. All right, so that's everything in there. I'll be going off screen to do some benchmarks, and after that we'll do the teardown. All right, so let's take this thing apart. First and foremost, we're gonna unscrew this top thumb screw. And there is a finger hold right here where you just pull it out. It comes out pretty easy. And it holds there because the glass has these tabs, right? At the bottom that hook right in, because you don't want the glass to slip out and then possibly hit something hard underneath and then possibly break. And right here you see the sticker that points to plugging into the GPU, and it covers the I/O ports. So that's a good thing. Once in a while, like on the Height Y40 case, it's a vertical mount GPU, but they still put the sticker over here. Kind of funny, but you know. All right, and then on the back panel for the glass, which I don't like the fact that this side is glass. For one, there's no need for it. It increases weight for the overall PC, and there's no possible venting on the back side. The back glass unscrews in the back and then pull out. Same thing, kind of hangs there. Same kind of tab system on the bottom. Same kind of framework around the glass. And then the top panel looks like there's a finger hold right here. So let's, yep, that comes right out. And that has a filter right below it instead of as part of the top, which is nice because then you don't have to worry about whether or not you can take out the filter. Some cases are like that. Got pretty good porosity on the top right there. And the filter looks like it's going to be magnetically held, which it is. I prefer not to have a filter if the top fans or the top AIO is set to exhaust, which I believe this one is, because that just creates more resistance to get the airflow out of the case. That's just an optimal kind of thought process, not necessarily that it's going to cause overheating or anything like that. That's just a preference of mine. All right, and then this front panel, I believe, also comes off. I left the sticker on here, but I think there's like a digital readout on the top right here. But for now, let's just take the front panel off. Okay. Now the porosity on the filter is pretty, it's okay. It looks like it's about a 50% porosity. It is an Antec case, but it does say Skytech Gaming right there, so it's kind of branded. The filter for the front doesn't look like it comes out. Yeah. So, yeah, that's not a big fan of that. It actually looks like, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up here, but it looks like there's screws all across in 3 rows, bottom, middle, and top. So I guess technically you could take the filter out, but that's just a pain in the ass. Why not do it like the top where it's magnetic? That's poor design in my opinion, but okay. Oh, that was accidental. This thing popped right out, which is an even odder choice, I guess. I guess for ease of blowing it out is fine, but that's just weird. I think it's magnetically held in. Yeah, there's little magnets right at the bottom there. That's interesting. Pretty weak magnets too. You'd think the magnets would be a little bit stronger. There's a view of that little digital readout that is there. So hopefully I'll remember to take a closer look at that. So it looks like that there's some extra paneling here. Looks like it unscrews. And then you take this out, maybe it swings out, and then this one kind of pops out, I guess. But we'll take a closer look at that. Meanwhile, There's the inside of our PC. But again, the front fans and the back exhaust fan look like they're Infinity fans. I'm not sure what brand they are or if they're Skytech fans. It says cooler something on the back here, and the logo is sitting upside down. Let me see if I can get a picture of it. It says cooler one on it. I'm sorry about if anything was showing up a little bit dark on the cameras. I forgot one of my lights, so I just turned that on. Here's the GPU, and it looks like it's the MSI Trio, but let's get the GPU out. The cabling looks pretty neat. So in a minute here, we're gonna check the screws and connections, make sure everything's secure. This is not cool, man. There we go. That's a good way to get it wrecked by cracking the PCB. But here is the 5090 in MSI, and I think it's a gaming Trio. No, it's a Ventus 3X OC. Okay, it is a metal backplate. Feels plasticky though, but yeah, sounds like it's metal backplate. Plastic shroud. All right, so here's the RTX 5090 and all its semi-glory. All right, so let's check all the cables and connections. All the cables seem secure. Let's double check all the screws in the motherboard. Okay, those are all secure. Let's check the fans on the AIO. Oh, that screw was very loose by almost a full turn. That screw is very loose by a half turn. That screw is loose by 3/4 of a turn. That screw, wow, is loose by about a half turn. 1/4 of a turn loose. 3/4 of a turn loose. Half turn loose. Almost a full turn loose. More than a full turn loose. 3/4 of a turn loose. Half turn loose. Half turn loose. And also this, I don't know what to call this, stabilizer bracket or whatever for the hose. Maybe because of the foam and everything was sitting off. So I just put that back. Okay, all those fans are fine. All right, and let's take out the RAM. Oh, we got Corsair Vengeance DDR5, 2x32, 6000 mega transfers, CL36 it looks like. I'm not sure if the camera's gonna catch this. As well, the logo has peel plastic still on them, indicating that these are indeed brand new sticks. So that's kind of impressive. All right, so let's take out the SSD. Okay, which comes with a nice little heat sink on the motherboard. Now this thermal pad looks shiny, like plastic is still on there, but it's not. And a release latch. There is the Western Digital Blue SN5100 2TB drive, and I'll look up the read-write speeds and put it right there. Now we had a couple of things I was a little bit concerned with thermals on the CPU. So let's see what the thermal paste looks like. Well, the thermal paste does look a little bit light with some slight pump out on the left and right side. All right. And interesting that they picked silver screws for the power supply. There's also a bracket, it looks like, that comes off with these two thumb screws. There's a couple of tie points on the back right here for outside cabling and managing there. Let's check fan screws. Okay, fan screws are fine. Let's check these top side screws. Okay, the screws are all fine. Right, also, hopefully the cameras will pick this up considering the height of this case. Maybe I'll do it from a top-down view. So there's a way to lift up this AIO. And so what you do is, looks like you unscrew this. It's kind of like the Flux Pro, which is made by the same company, Antec, where you can unscrew these two. As you can see, it comes right out, right? And you can see the little slots that it goes into. So you just kind of hook it in there, and then it sits right in. Cable management looks pretty decent. Everything's channeled well so far. Okay, there's a couple of tiny screws right here. Huh. There we go, it kind of lifts. Yeah, kind of lifts rather than hinges. Okay. It is metal. I like that. Okay. The cable management is pretty impressive. This is probably the best cable management I've seen on a pre-built. So, well done. Plenty of channels and everything for this case, considering its size. No surprise, although it is pretty clean and roomy for a non-dual chamber case. Looks like there is a hard drive cage with a sled in it and 3 sleds for SATA drives. Nothing really much to talk about in the back, unusually. Most times I have something to say on the back. And then we've got, looks like an Enermax Revolution 3 1000 watt power supply. I'm not gonna yank this out like I normally do because there doesn't seem to be a need since it's so blatant that that's what this is. But right here I'll show you what kind of rating it has. I'm assuming it's 80 plus gold, but I'll show it right here. Fully modular power supply, so that's impressive too. And on the bottom here is a filter that slides out from the front, which is nice to see. Although there are no intake fans on the bottom, there is a fan, an intake fan for the power supply right here, so that filter helps there. From a cooling standpoint, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea to have a couple of intake fans right here. For the front panel for the case, which is located at the top of the case, the bottommost button right there you see is your power button. Then you have your restart reset button, and above that you have your headphone mic jack, and then you've got 2 USB type A at 5 gigs, and then you have a USB Type-C at 10 gigs, and then that topmost button says temp on it. I'm not sure if you guys can see or read that, but it says temp, and that is the button that you use to switch between GPU and CPU temperature readouts on the little digital readout on the case at the top. And you can only use that with the iUnity software, which is from Antec for this case. For the rear I/O for this ASRock X870 Pro A Wi-Fi motherboard, you've got your BIOS flashback button at the top left right there. And right next to that is the Wi-Fi connectors for Wi-Fi 7. Below these is your HDMI port that supports 2.1. There's no display port on this motherboard. Below the HDMI port, you've got one USB 4 Type-C port at 40 gigs. Below that is another USB 4 Type-C port at 40 gigs. And next to that is a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port at 5 gigs. That's that teal one. And below these, you've got 4 USB 2.0 Type A ports. Below these, you've got 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports. These are 10 gigabits. Those are the blue ones. And then next to that, you've got your 2.5 gig RJ45 LAN port, and below these you have your HD audio jacks for line in, front speaker, and mic. There's no spit off on this motherboard. I also finally figured out what those little loose tab things were for. Those things fit onto the little finger holds for the side panels on the PC case. They slide right in, so they must have somehow got loose in shipping or something, because they were sitting loose on top of the styrofoam when I unboxed the PC. All right, so I will be back with the benchmarks and my final thoughts on this. Right, for the benchmarks, we'll start with Cyberpunk 2077. And at 4K, this PC did average of 117 FPS with 1% lows at 84.4. At 1440p, we did 213.1 FPS on average with 1% lows at 135.9. At 1080p, we did 235.6 average FPS with 1% lows at 145.1. The top CPU temperature during that run was 75.1 C with top power draw of 136.4 watts, and the top GPU temperature came in at 72 C with the top VRAM temperature of 76 C and the top power draw for the GPU at 579.4 watts. Then we did Black Myth Wukong, and at 4K we did 117.5 FPS on average with 1% lows at 94.5. At 1440p we did 128.1 average FPS with 1% lows at 103.7. And at 1080p we did 138.2 average FPS with 1% lows at 110.8. For the CPU, the top temperature came in at 70.6 C with top power draw of 109.1 watts. Top GPU temperature came in at 67.6 C with the top VRAM temperature of 72 C and the top power draw of 459.4 watts. Then we did Monster Hunter Wilds, and at 4K we did 109.9 average FPS with 1% lows at 69.8. At 1440p, we did 131.9 average FPS with 1% lows at 76.5. Then at 1080p, we did 142.1 average FPS with 1% lows at 81.2. Top CPU temperature for this came in a little on the high side at 82.1 C with top power draw of 136 watts. For the GPU, the top temperature came in at 68.5 C with top VRAM temperature at 74 C and the top power draw at 472.1 watts. Then we ran Steel Nomad from 3D Mark, and at 4K we did 142.7 average FPS with 1% lows at 126. At 1440p, we did 264.9 average FPS with 1% lows at 212. And at 1080p, we did 365.4 average FPS with 1% lows at 266.8. For the CPU, the top temperature came in at 79.3 C, still a little on the high side, and the top power draw came in at 139.6 watts. The GPU's top temperature came in at 73.6 C, with the top VRAM temperature at 78 C, and the top power draw at 577.7 watts. Then we did Red Dead Redemption 2, and at 4K we did 164.4 average FPS with 1% lows at 82.6. At 1440p we did 200.6 average FPS with 1% lows at 96.9, and at 1080p we did 210.8 average FPS with 1% lows at 86.3. For that run, the top CPU temperature came in at 70.4 C with top power draw of 116.7 watts, and the top GPU temperature came in at 72.1 C with the top VRAM temperature at 80 C and the top power draw at 557.6 watts. Then we stress test the GPU on Firmware 2.8.2.0, and we ran it for about a little over 40 minutes, I think it was. And during that stress test, the top GPU temperature came in at 76.2 C with the top VRAM temperature of 74 C and the top power draw of 596 watts. Moving over to productivity, creativity stuff on Blender 5.1.0. On the CPU side for Monster, it did 167.1 samples per minute. On Junk Shop, it did 117.8 samples per minute. And on Classroom, it did 87.6 samples per minute. On the GPU side for Monster, it did 7,177.8 samples per minute. On Junk Shop, it did 5,252 samples per minute, and on Classroom it did 4,051.1 samples per minute. And during that test, the top CPU temperature came in at 79.3 C, again a little on the high side, with top power draw of 146.8 watts. The GPU top temperature came in at 62.6 C with the top VRAM temperature of 70 C and the top power draw of 463.4 watts. Then I ran PC Mark 10 from 3D Mark, and it scored 12,097, which, if you've seen my past Threadripper build, that one did, I think it was 12,207 or something, somewhere around there was the score. So 12,097 is actually a pretty good score for this PC, considering it's got the 9800X3D in it, which isn't known for its productivity workloads, right? So that was interesting. Marks for like, I think it was the 9950X3D was coming in at like 11,000 and change, and I think the 285K was coming in at like 10,000 and change. So it doing a score of 12,097, that's impressive. So during that run, the top CPU temperature came in at 82.3 C. The top power draw for it came in at 147.5 watts. And for the GPU, the top temperature came in at 59.7 C. The top VRAM temperature came in at 64 C, and the top power draw came in at 304.3 watts. Then we ran Cinebench R23 for the CPU, and the multi-core score came in at an acceptable 22,696, and the single core came in at an expected range of 2,024. And during that, the top CPU temperature came in at 81.1 C, and the top power draw came in at 147.6 watts. Then we ran Shotcut, which I may start switching over to DaVinci Resolve once I learn that software. And if you want to know why, then check out that Threadripper video that I did. The 20-minute long video exported at 11 minutes 36 seconds. The 5-minute short form video exported at 2 minutes 56 seconds. Both were expected results for this kind of PC. And during that exportation, the top CPU temperature came in at 75.1 C with the top power draw of 104.7 watts. Top GPU temperature came in at 52.2 C. Fans are spinning up, so if you're hearing that and it's getting in the way, then sorry about that. I lost track, so let's go back to top GPU temperature came in at 52.2 C with the top VRAM temperature coming in at 62 C and the top power draw coming in at 78.1 watts, believe it or not. I might have misrecorded that. That seems pretty low for those temperatures, but those I would think maybe it was closer to 378, but you know what? I'm gonna stick with my notes. That might be a mistake on my part, so sorry if there's any confusion there. I don't know if you can hear the fans, but I can, and it's getting in the way, and I want to talk about the stuff that I found. So I'm gonna turn this PC off. That's better. All right, so there's lots to unpack here as far as the things I found on this PC and my thoughts on it. And first and foremost, here, remember I said that we're gonna check this versus what I found, so let's go through this and I'll show you a picture of this. So on the build inspection side, it says things like correct case, correct CPU, correct memory, correct drives, correct Wi-Fi, physical damage inspection. So all those things cleared. Also says correct fans, correct motherboard, correct graphics card, correct cooling system, correct power supply, cable management inspection. So all those things checked out, including the cable management, looked pretty good. Then it shows installation of correct drivers. Believe it or not, this is the only pre-built PC that came to me with the most updated BIOS drivers and GPU drivers. No other pre-built PC had that, so kudos to Skytech on that. Correct software, so it has not necessarily bloatware, but I'll talk about that here shortly. Correct Windows version, well, not correct, it just says Windows version. Windows activation, all those are good. MSI combustor, I don't recall seeing MSI combustor in there, so maybe I'm just misremembering it. Prime 95 CPU torture tests, I don't remember seeing that. I do remember seeing an OCC test for stability. The test results for that. Correct thermal performance. On the CPU side, it seems to be running a little on the hot side, not too much on the hot side, but a little hotter than I expected. The CPU temperature, as I said during the benchmark results, a few times it was a little hotter than I expected, so 80 or above C on certain runs. And I don't necessarily feel overly concerned with it, but it is slightly concerning based on the fact that it is an ASRock motherboard, and it is ASRock that is the most common motherboard that is burning out 9800X3Ds and even other current gen 9000 series CPUs. But the most common one that's showing up is the 9800X3D. And considering my expectation was the CPU hitting between 70 to 78, 79 C, it's a little hotter than expected on a few areas. And so I'm not sure if that has to do with the AIO or the thermal paste or the motherboard itself, or a combination of the three, but it was a little hotter than I expected. So take that for what you will. And while we're talking about the ASRock motherboard, while I was in the BIOS, if you'll recall, the fan settings in there was no graphical interface, right? It was like drop-down menus, and then you selected the settings you wanted, whether it be silent or anything like that. But you couldn't custom control it, which was pretty disappointing. I'm not a fan of that. No pun intended. You should be able to customize your own fans. You own these components. You own those fans. You own that motherboard. And so them not letting you custom control it is a little bit insane to me. There's also no bottom intake fans right here, which could have potentially created a better cooling environment, especially considering that you've got 3 intakes and 4 exhaust fans. So now we've got a negative pressure system in here. And so what you want is either neutral or at least slightly positive pressure system. And that helps a lot with cooling, and it also helps with dust buildup and things like that. So I'm a little bit disappointed. Had it been me, I would have probably chosen maybe 2 fans right here, one right here for the GPU and one right here for an extra fan intaking cool air to blow across as it blows up the side here and then blows across the motherboard and CPU. Maybe that would have helped the CPU temperatures a little bit. And for the power supply, they picked an Enermax 1000 watt 80 plus gold power supply, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with that choice, but I think for the price, they should have put in a 1200 watt power supply. You don't really need a 1200 watt power supply with this setup, but if I upgraded that CPU to say a 9950X3D, then I'd be a whole lot happier and a lot more comfortable if it was a 1200 watt power supply. Your optimal efficiency range for a power supply is about 60% of usage, and so because of that, 1000 watts with a 9950X3D in there is probably going to be inefficient. And for the case, this is the Antec Performance 1 or Performance 1 FT, FT standing for full tower, and it is pretty tall setting PC. I'm a little bit disappointed that the controls and front panel ports are at the top of the case, which could potentially force somebody to choose to place the PC on the floor, which is the last place I would personally place a PC. There's also an odd choice that they made with some of the screws that they put in here for the filter of this front panel that's removable. I don't know why they did that. It's like a crap ton of mini screws for you to be able to unscrew it, and even then I didn't even test it out to see if that would remove the filter itself. Not that you would need to, but if you ever needed to or wanted to replace that filter, say it gets old enough and it gets damaged somehow, I don't know that you can replace that filter. Now the top one is magnetic, right? And that's perfectly fine, although I would rather not have it there in an exhaust system because that just creates more resistance, but it's not a major factor, it's just not optimal. I also ran into a couple of minor, very minor stability issues where on Black Myth Wukong, when I first ran it at 4K, it dumped me out of the game. And that happened after I think there was like 3 or 4 major frame time spikes that showed up, and I was like, oh, we're having a problem. And then the game dumped, right? I ran it right after that and it ran fine. But then when I was doing the Steel Nomad run, on the 1440p run, it errored out on me at the very beginning. It was while it was doing the loading. In isolation for Black Myth Wukong or the thing that happened with Steel Nomad, I wouldn't necessarily chalk it up to an instability, but both those things happen in a fairly short order. Granted, I didn't see any other stability issues or concerns for everything else that I did before and after those things. So I don't know. It could be a stability issue. It could be just PCs being PCs. I don't know, but I thought I'd mention it. And that's it for the cons. Not a lot, nothing major, just some minor things. So let's talk about the pros. And this might sound like a con, but it's actually a pro. So the condition of the box that this PC came in had me kind of worried. It had a lot of damage to it, and some of it wasn't from shipping because there was Skytech tape covering some of the damage to the box. So some of that damage happened at Skytech, right? So I was kind of concerned during the unboxing of what I was going to run into, but I was happy to see that everything was fine. Otherwise, the out-of-box experience for this was actually probably the best experience I've had in any pre-built PC that I've reviewed so far. The accessories were pretty impressive. The check sheets that came with it was impressive. The fact that the power button was in the off position. A lot of them sometimes come in the on position, which I hate. The BIOS and the GPU driver versions were current versions. XMP was turned on, PBO was turned on, the Infinity Fabric was at the right setting. So yeah, the out-of-box experience was pretty decent, except for, you know, the fan curve settings for this ASRock motherboard. So the only downside I can say really as to the overall experience is that they happen to choose and install an ASRock motherboard, especially considering the ongoing concerns with ASRock. There was a lot of pre-installed software. You remember I said I was going to talk about the software here in a little bit, and so there's a lot of pre-installed software on it. And most of the time when you see that in a pre-built PC, a lot of it's going to be bloatware and scammy stuff like McAfee and things like that, or Norton or anything like that. But that's not what was on there. What was on there was like customer support and feedback and things like that for the Skytech side of things. It also had the OCC testability results that they ran before shipping the PC. They had the iUnity software on there, which is what's used to control that top readout panel. It also had Signal RGB, which is a decent RGB control software. None of that software was bloatware, and none of it was like the scammy stuff and things like that. The cable management was pretty good. I was pretty impressed, although there is a whole lot of room to work in on this case, it being a full tower, right? But at the same time, there's been a couple of times where the cable management was atrocious. I'm looking at you, HP, with your 45L Omen. Finally, I want to talk about something I haven't talked about on any other pre-built PC because I haven't really needed to. But the customer service was stellar. They didn't know that I was buying this PC to do a review on. And so one of the things I've experienced in the past when I've sold or bought things on eBay was when FedEx is chosen as the shipper, they have a location in California that when it goes to that location, things get lost or stolen is really what's happening there. I mean, that location has a rating of 2.3 stars out of 5 stars on Google reviews. And I actually sent an AIO to a customer and it went through that location. It was a 360 mil RGB AIO and it got lost, stolen. So I was worried, considering that Skytech is in the same state as I am, which is California, that this PC was going to go through that location because they use FedEx, they don't use UPS, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. I was worried that this was going to get lost. It's got a 5090 in it, right? And so there's a decent chance that that was going to be a problem. So I started with their chat system on their website, and you know how that goes, right? I mean, 99.9% of the time, you're not talking to a real person, you're talking to an automated system. And then if it gets accelerated, then maybe you're talking to a person after that. Their chat system put me in touch with this person named Kanoa, and she immediately started helping when I expressed my concerns. And so one of the concerns was that shipping route, right? And the other concern I had was that I have things like this sent to where I work. because I don't want something like this sitting on my porch at my house for a prolonged length of time where it can get snatched up, right? And so I told them, look, you know, I'd like it delivered between Monday and Friday, not on a weekend, because when I ordered this, it looked like it was going to be here on a weekend. And she said she would see what she could do. And she asked me for my, well, I think I already provided my email through the chat system. Not very long after that, she emails me and tells me that she's got it worked out where it will not come until they know for sure that it'll arrive at my place of business on a weekday. So that was fantastic. She couldn't change it from FedEx to UPS. Apparently they don't work with UPS right now. They're just primarily working with FedEx, so they had no choice with that. But she was very responsive. We even joked a couple of times about how shipping works and things like that, back and forth via email. And I got to tell you, Kanoa, if you're out there, thank you so much for such great service. If they haven't given you a raise and anybody from Skytech sees this video, then please give Kanoa a raise. She's doing a great job. She is a great customer facing asset for you guys. So keep up the good work with that. At the end of the day, Skytech is probably the most impressive pre-built PC and out-of-box experience I've seen so far. And I think this is like my 10th pre-built PC that I've reviewed. Now this PC I bought for $4,400 after a sale that they were doing where you used a couple of specific codes that you needed to have. Now that's still on the high side versus what the actual true value of what everything is in here versus the fabricated value that currently exists in the market today. The true value of everything in here is probably closer to about like $3,600. But if I tried to build this PC as similarly as I could, but with the best price things, right? From a quality and price standpoint, with that balance, I think it was going to come out to be like $5,700 or $5,900. I'll show you the PC part picker list that I came up with. If I weren't reviewing PCs, I don't think I would have paid that price. I would have paid maybe $4,000. $4,000 would have been a good price. $3,600, $3,500, even $3,700. I would have snapped it right up. Maybe even $3,800, considering that it's 2 terabyte drive and it's 64 gigs of RAM instead of 32. So maybe even $3,800 I would have found perfectly acceptable and might have snatched it up right away. But if I wasn't doing PC reviews, I don't think I would have paid $4,400 plus for this PC. You might feel differently, and if you do, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you got any questions or concerns or thoughts on Skytech or their PCs or any other PC and the current PC market, feel free to write anything down in the comments having to do with PCs and hardware. So that's it. That's the review on this Skytech Legend 4 PC. Hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the video and found the information helpful. Thanks for joining me, and hope to see you in the next one.